this video is we're going to work on the linear functions practice lab where we work with word problems and use linear functions. The Pond Company has found that there's a linear relationship between the amount of money that they spend on advertising and the number of feasels that they sell. So the first thing you have to look at is what depends on what. What's your input? What's your output? And they said there's a linear relationship right away, so we know what that is. And they're talking about the amount of money that they spend on advertising, that's one thing, and the number of feasels. So let's look at what they say next. If they spend no money on advertising, they sell 200 feasels. So I know that the number of feasels that they sell depends on the advertising money. Then they said for every additional 4,000 spent on advertising, they sell an additional feasels, 100 feasels. So if X is the amount of money on advertising, find the formula Y, the number of feasels sold as a function of X. So they kind of told you here that X is your advertising money, so that's your input. So if you made points on it, my points are always X, Y, or input, output. So I know this is the money for advertising, and this is the number of feasels. So you can kind of set it up that way because sometimes um, when you go to do this, you might get it backwards. So now I know what my input, my output is. So now anytime I talk about the money, so my first point would be if I spend no money, I'm going to sell 200 feasels. So again, this is money and this is my number of feasels. And yes, I made up feasels. There's no such thing. Okay. Then they said if they for each additional $4,000 spent, so the $4,000 can go here, they sell an additional 100 feasels. So this would be a 300. So I hope that didn't stump you up. So now when I have these 2 points, I can kind of figure out what my linear relationship is. So first of all, I know that y equals b plus mx. Remember, b is your initial value, m is your slope or your rate of change. And I know right off the bat, if I spend no money, I'm going to sell 200 feasels. So I know that b is going to be 200. And all I have to do now is find my rate of change or my slope. So when I do the slope, remember slope is delta y over delta x. And I'm kind of running out of room over here, so I'm going to kind of do this over here. So I'm going to stack and rack. Now my y's go first. I'm going to go bottom up. So I'm going to do my slope is going to be 300 minus 200 all over 4,000 minus 0. I know we don't need the 0. And I'm going to label what these are. So this is the number of feasels, and this is dollar. And I want you to remember that that line stands for per or for each one. So when I do the slope, I get 100 over 4,000, or it reduces down to 1 over 40. Okay? So that means for every one feasel sold, that's what that stands for, okay, per, remember this is per, $40 spent. So it's $1, one feasel sold for every $40 spent on advertising. Okay, so I kind of know what that means. So now my formula is going to be y equals 200 plus 1 over 40x. So now if I look at this, I'm like, okay, this is the number of feasels, the y. The x is my advertising money, so I can throw it in there. And it says that if I spend no money on advertising, I sell 200. So I'm going to begin at 200, and then it's going to cost $40 for every feasel I want to sell. That's kind of important because I know you can do the math, but it's important to me that you understand what it stands for. So now it says, how many feasels does the Pond Company sell if they spend $16,000 on advertising? So now I'm going to go ahead and use what we just found here, and I'm going to answer that question. Again, the dollars are your X because that's your input. We did that here. And Y is your output, number of feasels. So here I'm going to do Y equals 200 plus 1 over 40 times $16,000. When I do that, they sell 600 feasels. according to our pattern, according to our formula. Then I'm going to use the same formula because they want to know if I spend 32,000, so I'm going to plug that in. Okay, and now this, when I put this on my calculator, it comes out to be 1,000 feasels. So that's kind of cool that you can now go through and answer questions about the pattern you found, your linear function. Now it says how much advertising money must be spent to sell 5,000 feasels. Now, the feasels, remember, are my y, so I'm going to go again and use this formula, but in this formula, I'm going to put it here again. This is going to go in my y spot, and I'm going to basically solve for x, or how much money did I spend to do that. So I'm going to put the $5,000 here, equals 200 plus 1 over 40x. Subtract 200 on both sides, so that's 4,800 equals 1 over 40x. And because we're in calculus, I'm not going to divide by 1 over 40. I'm going to multiply both sides by 40. I get x to be $192,000. So that's how much they would have to spend to sell 5,000 feasels according to our formula. Now I'm going to look up here, and they want to know what is the slope, which we know it's 1 over 40, or rate of change, that you found in part A, and give an interpretation. Well, because we kind of already talked about it up here, this means that one feasel is sold for every $40 spent in advertising, which is good to know. You want to know, so I better sell my feasels for more than $40, right? Whatever it is. So this is one feasel. This is what this stands for here, for every $40 in advertising. Okay. All right. The next one on here is a college meal plan. So this is kind of cool. It says in a college meal plan C, you pay a membership fee, then all your meals are at a fixed price per meal. This is kind of cool because this is a lot of the way that the colleges do this. So if you have 30 meals, know that that costs $156 and 60 meals cost $252. Find the membership fee. So the first thing I'm going to do is kind of do the formula down here, but let's make some points here. So I know the first point is 30 meals cost $156 because the number of meals is going to determine the money. Okay, so the money depends on the meals. And if you get 60 meals, it's going to cost $252. So I have some points. Now let's do our formula here. Y equals B plus MX. So I'm going to find my rate of change, or my slope first, which is delta Y over delta X. So I'm going to do top, bottom, and when I do, I've got 252 minus 156 all over 60 minus 30. Now, this one you can actually reduce down to 16 over 5, which is cool because remember, this is $16 and this stands for meals. So you're just saying, hey, it's going to cost me $16 for 5 meals, which is interesting, but it would be nice to know per meal. So I'm going to actually divide that out and I get 3.2. So that's basically $3.20 per meal. Okay, that's what it's going to cost me. All right. Now they want me to continue on. It looks like I'm running out of room again. I write too big here. So now I have y equals b plus 3.20x. And I'm just going to plug in one of the points. So I'm going to pick the 156, and the y is b plus 3.20 times 30. You can pick the other point. It doesn't matter. I'm going to multiply those two together and subtract it from 156. When I do that, I get b is 60. So they want me to use C and N. So my equation is really y equals 60 plus 3.20x. But since they want me to use C and N, I've got the cost is going to equal $60 plus $3.20 per meal. They want me to use that. So there is my formula. Now I can come back and say, wait a minute, if I didn't buy any meals, my beginning value is 60. That means my membership fee is $60. Okay? Now they want us to find the cost of 50 meals. Well, this will be cool because now I have it all set. I can just plug the 50 in for N so that I know that C equals 60 plus 3.20 times 50. And when I do that, I get the cost. It comes out to be $220. So it helps us. Now they want us to find N in terms of C. So what they basically want me to do is take my formula and solve for N. So I have C equals 60 plus 3.20N. Subtract 60. C minus 60 equals 3.20N. Then I'm going to divide by 3.20. So I've got N is C minus 60 all over 3.2. And I'm just going to leave it that way. But they just said solve for N. Now, the way this is the actual inverse. These two formulas are inverses of each other. Up here, I put in the number of meals, I get the cost. Here, I throw the cost in, I get the number of meals. So now they want me to use that part to determine the maximum number of meals you can buy on a budget of $50. So I'm going to do N equals $500, excuse me, minus 60 all over 3.2, which equals 137.5, which we have to round down to 137 meals because if I round up, I wouldn't have enough money if I only had $500. Just for a note here, you could have actually used this blue formula up here to solve this, but I just wanted to show you that these were inverses of each other, and we had talked about that, and that's kind of cool. So I hope this helps.